Welcome everyone to the Football Business Talks. I'm Roger Hampel, the founder of Football Business Journal, and today I have the honor of speaking with Duncan Niederauer, the president of Venezia FC. Duncan, as the founder and managing partner of Trends and Capital Advisors and former CEO of New York Stock Exchange, as well as a former partner at Goldman Sachs, what led you to the sports industry and to become part of the Venezia FC story?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and what I would say is this: is all of those chapters in my career have some things in common, right? It's all about, I thought I could make the exchange. I thought I could leave the exchange better than I found it. I thought I was the right person to try to help get it back on track when I stepped into that role at the stock exchange, and that was quite an opportunity, quite a life experience. When we started Transcend, I think a lot of families are underserved by the current wealth management model. And I thought with the right partners, we would have a chance to do something much better for the families that we take care of and improve their lives. And I felt the same way when I came to Venice. My wife and I love this city. We love Italy. And I thought there was not only a business opportunity here, but I thought there was an opportunity to do something very special for a city that we love. So the theme in my career is if you leave it better than you found it, you continue to look for those opportunities where you think if you put in the work, you can make a difference in people's lives. And that's been true. That's why we started Transcend. That's kind of why I find myself here in Venice. I never played soccer as a kid. I played a lot of sports, but soccer or football was not one of them. I didn't really, frankly, know much about how a football team is operated, but I was drawn to this because of the city where the team is, and I thought we could really improve the situation here.
Could you elaborate on how the Venezia FC's business model is distinct from other football clubs, especially in terms of partnerships and revenue streams?
Yeah, I think we're getting there. I think we're getting there, Roger, but I don't think we're there yet. But I'll tell you what the ambition is. I think the ambition is there are a handful of cities in the world that have football teams that really have their own international brand. You'd say Paris, you'd say Barcelona, you'd say in Italy, maybe you'd say Rome, Milan, Florence, and Venice. There's not many cities around the world that where you get the privilege of playing that bring with it the city's own brand and reputation. So our view was in a city like Venice, if you put the building blocks in place, you could build a much more diversified business model than a lot of the football teams you probably studied when you were in the graduate program. What do I mean by that? As you know, most teams are very reliant on player sales. Like many teams are very reliant on do they get promoted or relegated. We realize those are always all going to be factors, but we're trying to have a situation where if we have a steady performance from the first team, if we have a growing youth academy that we invest in, and we can talk about that too, if we have a venue that we can monetize not only on match days, but in other ways, and if we have a brand that we can use the brand of the city to build a global brand, you have a very diversified stream of revenues that most soccer teams can only dream about. You can dream about it here, not because of us, but because of where we play.
You have everything to succeed with having also great location. Venezia FC also went beyond football. The club evolved into a fashion brand, a world-class fashion brand. It went viral. The whole internet was talking about it. So what was the process of this transformation, of this rebranding? Could you share the key strategies of this rebranding?
Yeah, so I'm not a marketing person by training. I was blessed to have really good people on the team when we tried to make this transition. And all we said to the team was, guys, we in a city like Venice, we should aspire to operate at that intersection of football, fashion, and culture, and probably in that order. What we can't forget, first and foremost, we're a football team, right? Like that, we have the city of Venice, we have the football team that plays in Venice, and then the question is, what can you build on top of that foundation? And our view was, let's test the idea, and let's see if we're right, and let's see if we can most cities couldn't, I think, even pretend to operate at that intersection. And we thought, let's try. To be honest, Roger, I think we were surprised at how viral it went as quickly as it went. And it was so viral and it was so present. I would have the media here ask me, well, it's too bad you didn't spend more on the team because you were busy spending so much on media. And I'm like, guys, I didn't spend anything on media. Every article that was written about us was free media. Like, they wanted to write about us because it had captivated everyone's attention. So I think there's that old cliche, sometimes it's better to be lucky than smart. I think in this case, we were both. We had the right idea, but I think we did it at a moment where the field was open and the team did a great job. And you turn the clock forward to today, Roger, and 95% of our merchandise sales are to people who don't live in Italy, right? It's pretty amazing for a small team that's only been in Serie A once the last 20 years.
It's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. And that's also a great marketing case study of going beyond football and create something more from the sports ground. So do you find yourself as a catalyst for other football clubs to go beyond football?
Yeah, I think so. But when people call us to ask us that question, I think the first thing I say to them is, hey guys, we have to be very clear. Please don't think we have some secret formula. Like, we're very lucky to have Venice as the backdrop. And I think a lot of teams that would try to do this, you must have a city in most cases like this as a backdrop. Now, a few other places, like what Manchester has done with Man U and Man City, is incredible, right? Because most people don't think of Manchester as a tourist destination, but now they know it because of the two football teams there, right? I think that's pretty remarkable and pretty unusual. So I say to these other clubs who ask me questions about this, hey guys, we've only scratched the surface. Like, we have much further to go. It's great that we sell more jerseys than we've ever sold. My next ambition is for us to be more like PSG and what they did with the Jordan brand, right? That to me is amazing. Like, they use the city of Paris. If we're honest, a lot of those people who buy PSG apparel in a shop in Asia or in the US may never have seen a PSG game. They like the brand, right? And they associate with the brand. And we have a long way to go to even begin to touch what's possible there. So I'm very humble about it. We've done some things right, but we have a long, long way to go. And we have some ideas of where we can go next, but I think some of that will become more clear to people very soon.
95% of the orders were from abroad, as you said. So which new global markets are you targeting for international expansion?
Yeah, we're thinking a lot about that, and we think the way we're going to do that is a little differently than we've done it to date. So right now, our top markets are the US, the UK, Germany, and Korea and Japan are sort of 4 or 5 right now, in terms of where we sell the stuff. The next move we're going to make is we're very close to signing an agreement with someone who I would describe as a global brand ambassador. Very interesting demographics in sports and fashion who follow him. And then the idea would be we co-design not only we co-create a new apparel line, but we also co-design how we go out to the world with that. Because now what we're going to do is lay over the demographics of the ambassador's followership with what our target demographics, with what our success to date seems to be telling us about the demographics that our brand appeals to. And then we're going to see if we can take it to a whole nother level. I don't think you'll see evidence of that realistically until next year, because we're just beginning to work with them and we need to understand what to design, how to roll it out, where to roll it out, et cetera, et cetera. But our ambition with them is to help us way beyond just selling more jerseys. Have they helped us co-design next year's kit? Yes, but we want to take it together way beyond kit. I'm sure we'll sell more jerseys next year, Roger, with their help, but we don't want to stop there. We think there's a much bigger world out there.
And what about local market?
Yeah. So the good news is I think we've already laid the foundation for that, because if you and I had come here 10 years ago, and you didn't know there was a team here, nothing in Venice would have told you that there was one. There was no evidence of a team. There were no flagship stores. There was no presence of the club here 10 years ago. My wife and I, when we first heard about this opportunity, I didn't even know. I don't really follow European football that much from the US. I knew I loved this city. I didn't know they had a team, and I didn't know the history of several bankruptcies and a lot of problems. So what have we done in the last 2 or 3 years? We want the brand to be more visible and more easily discovered. So we have 2 shops in Venice now. And if you and I walked by those shops, you would be very surprised. Maybe you wouldn't be, because you know the brand well. Most people are surprised. It looks nothing like a sports apparel store.
Yes, yeah.
It looks like a high-end luxury fashion brand store. It doesn't look like it's not cluttered. It's not, the racks aren't packed with merchandise. It's very elegant. So we have 2 shops in Venice, and the new training center we built that I'm sitting in right now, we moved the mainland store to the training center, so that when there are activities here, or when a fan wants to engage with the team, they now come to the training center and come to the shop here. So now I think it's like think of it this way. 2 years ago, we were doing no sales to tourists because there was nothing for them to buy. Now those two shops will probably do 2 million in revenue this year. And we don't advertise. We just put them in the right places in Venice, and people find them.
Yeah, so that was my first thought actually when I was in Venice. I bought this jersey in Venezia FC store. I felt more like I'm doing shopping in a very luxury store in Milan, in Galleria Vittorio Emanuele, than in a typical soccer club store, right?
That's exactly the mood we're trying to create.
Yeah.
Like, we wanted people to imagine that this wasn't just a football jersey. This was a piece of apparel that you could wear, that men or women could wear, not just to a match or when they were watching a match, but just out in the street, right? So the best example of that is the gold one that was the 3rd jersey a year or 2 ago. I see those everywhere, where people just wear them with a nice pair of jeans, or maybe a sweater over the top, and it looks really, really good. If you looked at what we did with the 3rd jersey in 2 other years, this year and 2 years ago, where one was sort of the classic Venetian burgundy color, and this year was a tribute to the gondolieri, like, we also try to make sure it's not just about fashion. We tie it back to the city in which we play. And I would say, even though the home jersey is almost always by far the most popular, that's the one you're wearing today, this year, the 3rd jersey is really, really popular. It's blue and white stripes. It's got a red collar. It's got, when the players wear it, it's got gold numbers on the back with the gold logo on the front. Does not come across like a football jersey, but it's also incredibly respectful to the history of Venice.
So how does Venezia FC leverage its unique Venetian identity to enhance the experience for its fans, creating additional value, not just for the supporters, but also for the brand itself?
Right. So let's think about how we did the photo shoots this year, right? So for the home jersey, we did the typical fashion models that would, filming them in Venice. Like, we don't film them at the headquarters here. We film them on the canal. We film them in front of a palazzo that's a beautiful place in Venice. And again, we're so lucky to have that as our backdrop, right? Because we get that for free. For the away jersey this year, I reached out to the patriarch of the Cipriani family, which, as you know, if you know anything about Venice, I mean, the family is very connected to the brand of Venice, and their brand is very connected. And this was the gentleman who's really the patriarch of the entire family's operation around the world, and particularly here in Venice. I didn't know him very well. I just reached out to him and said, "Would you participate in the introduction of the away jersey?" In 5 minutes, Roger, he said he would be honored to do that. So so that photo shoot was him on his boat in his canal and in front of Harry's bar showing the new jersey. And people said, "Why would you have someone of that demography and that age wear your jersey? Who would that appeal to?" Said, "No, you're missing the point. It's respect for the city and respect for what that family created here. And you either like the jersey or you don't. And you see it in Venice, it changes your mind about it." And the models for the third shirt were gondoliers. They were gondola. They did the photo shoot. So how much more traditional can you get and respectful, right? That's what we were trying to say is, guys, this was to honor you. We'd like you to be in the photo shoot, right? And then it lets people dream a little bit bigger, I think, about where you can take the brand and how they think about what they're buying.
A great case of remaining authentic, but also developing the brand. So in case of looking for new partners, what are the main criteria that Venezia FC is looking for? I know many authentic teams that are very strict regarding the partnerships. They want to keep the proper sponsorship fit. How about Venezia FC and keeping this unique Venetian identity, but also having a collaborative approach?
Yeah, so it's another great question, and it's something we've really wrestled with, because to be realistic, as much as outsiders think we've solved for a global brand solution, the clubs, we've only been at it for 3 years, and the club had forget international sponsors. The club didn't even have local sponsors 3 years ago. No one paid attention to this team, and brands you would think that were Venetian that would want to be connected to us, we hadn't earned the right for them to be connected to us yet. Now, step by step, I think we're earning the right. And one of the things we have in our future plans is, if the brand ambassador and we work as well together as I think we will, we believe that we can appeal to a whole different set of sponsors. Like, the sponsors we have now are very loyal. They're fantastic partners. They're all local. We do not have international sponsors, in a meaningful way in our group yet. So I think we have to be very humble about that. We are not nearly established enough for us to be dictating that. We hope that if we get more attention and we do it thoughtfully and we do it respectfully, and the brand ambassador helps us take that awareness up exponentially, we can have conversations we've never been able to have before. But I don't think we're going to dictate, because I think that would be a bit arrogant at this stage to start dictating. We're not set enough yet to do that. I think the next step is to just broaden the set of potential partners and then see where it takes us.
So last year, instead of playing with the sponsors logo, you played with the sign Città di Venezia. Was this a coincidence or part of the branding strategy?
The deal we have with our sponsors is, in the shops, we are not required to use their logos in the shops. The sponsorships are more for the attention they get on the media when the matches are on TV. So there will be some fans that will want the jerseys with the sponsors. The majority want it just to say Venezia or Città di Venezia, right? So we have worked it out with the sponsors with no stress, no real arguing, that in the shops you would find the jersey like you're wearing. You wouldn't find it all. I always remember the Juventus jersey when Jeep was a sponsor, and I guess if you're Juventus and you play in Turin, maybe that's a more sensible business decision, because that's what the fans associate with, seeing Jeep or seeing Aeon on the Man United jersey. For us, if Venezia is the brand, the city is the brand more than our sponsors or us. The city is the brand we have. So I think we're also trying to bring that together in that way. So
yeah, it was fascinating for me, Duncan. Many times I see the beautiful shirts of the football club and well designed. I see that many people were working on it. but the final product is including the sponsor's logo. Sometimes you cannot maybe identify yourself with the sponsor, but overall you have to, if you want to wear the club's jersey, you have to pay 100 euros and wear it with the sponsor's logo. Sometimes probably when you go to United States, people don't know the club, but they know the company. So they think that you're kind of advertising the company. And yeah, and when you're without sponsors logo, it's totally fascinating for me, let's say from the branding perspective.
And I think the sponsors appreciate why that probably makes sense. And then obviously that's reflected. If they wanted us to sell them with their brand, then it's a different sponsorship relationship, right? Like, because then they're getting a lot more eyeballs on the product than they otherwise would be. So it's just a business decision for both of us. But in the shop, we'd much prefer to sell like the stuff you're wearing right now.
So coming back, Duncan, to your global vision, you said that you're inspired by Paris Saint-Germain. You want to build a strong brand, recognizable all around the world,
Took
right?
them 10 years though, Roger, when you think about it. And they had one of the most relevant brand icons in the world in one of the most amazing cities in the world. And 10 years later, it's incredible business. But you know, it took time, right? So we have to be, it starts with the foundation that we've laid. You add a brand ambassador on top who has, as I said, to whom people pay attention in sports and fashion. And then you have to just go a little bit by a little bit by a little bit. And next thing you know, like we're still a small club. So we could have a fraction of the success that PSG has had, and that would still improve our enterprise value tremendously because it diversifies revenue and it's high margin business.
So I think I can use the title, the clickbait title, just the beginning, because it wasn't just one season wonder, one season viral, but you have a much bigger plan and strategy.
Got to keep building on the base, right, Rogers?
And what about the sporting aspect? I think you have a huge chances to be promoted to the first division this year. Do you already have some branding plans or other business plans for the promotion to Serie A?
Yeah, so it's funny that you asked that because you know football, right? You win a few matches in a row, and all like my wife and I spend a lot of time with the fans when we're here before the matches. We actually watch the matches from the curva, so we stand with the fans at the stadium, and they all want to talk. They all go, you know, President, Serie A, and I'm like, guys, we have 16 matches left, so we should have the aspiration to move up, but we should our near-term plan should reflect humility. And like, so we have business plans that assume we remain in Serie B. And we obviously also have a business plan that what can we do if we do move up? I think moving up gives us a chance to do a couple of things, Roger. So like it would accelerate all of the things you and I have spent the last 30 minutes talking about. It would mean it's easier for those global markets you and I were touching on earlier. It's a heck of a lot easier for us to activate the brand ambassador if we're in Serie A and every match is on TV in the US and half of our matches are against teams that are well-known, big, famous teams. Like we could accelerate our business plan much, much faster, but it doesn't mean in Serie B we can't still do it. Like, what have we learned with PSG? They're a successful team, but they don't win the Champions League, right? And they've proven that you don't have to if you think about your brand properly and you build it. So I do think Serie A will give us a chance to go faster, but we have to have a business plan that assumes until we prove we can make it, we should assume we're where we are and behave in that way before we get too ahead of ourselves. Maybe I'm a superstitious sports fan. We know what the opportunity is. We have an important match this weekend. We have 16 matches. We should really, really play them one at a time, not look ahead, right? But yeah, I think it would accelerate our plans a lot if we can make it.
And what about youth academy?
So it's there's a lot there. So I don't know if it's the right answer or not. And I think one could argue that in the last 4 years since we've been involved, we've, maybe we've invested too much. I don't know. History will decide whether we did it too fast or too much too soon. But when we took over in 2020, most of the players were here on loan. They were not assets of the club. There was no real youth academy to speak of. The stadium was kind of falling apart. The training center was very, very like below where it should be. And we had a bit of a relationship with the women's team, but not really. Like it wasn't really our women's team who we were supporting. So we made a list of all the things we wanted to do in addition to investing in the brand. And in the 4 years we've been here, we now own the assets on the first roster, and we have a very good. I think we have the third youngest team in Serie B. We brought 3 guys from Barcelona, so some place where you spent some time. 3 guys from the Barcelona Youth Academy came here to rebuild ours 3 years ago. We're starting to see that effort bear some fruit. This is the 3rd year we've had our own women's team. They play their home matches here at the training center. They have their own facility here that we've built for them. So they feel very, very supported. And we had probably 500 or 600 fans at their match here on Sunday. And what made me the most happy, Roger, to digress for a minute, is there were many little girls after the match waiting to see the players after the match. This did not happen 3 years ago. So it was very exciting for me to see the women being looked up to by girls the way young boys look up to the players on the first team. So the academy's bearing some fruit. The women's team, we think women's sports are really important, and it's the right thing to do. But I think 4 or 5 years from now, it will also be a valuable part of our enterprise. We built a new training center. We refurbished the stadium. We've grown the brand. And there's a new stadium that the municipality's building that should come online in 3 years. That will be bigger, more accessible, more modern. So, you have to put all those things in place, or you don't have a business. But it was expensive.
Karl-Heinz Rummenigge, the former CEO of Bayern Munich and current board member of Bayern and UEFA, revealed at Spobis conference that John Henry, who acquired Liverpool, also owns the Boston Red Sox. Asked him if he could explain soccer to him. He said that in the United States, buying a sport franchise comes with a return of investment due the good sporting results of the club. And in Liverpool, it was totally different, even during successful times. And Carl mentioned that in soccer franchises, profit is made mostly by selling the club. So if he bought the club for 700 million pounds, it could be sold right now for around 5 billion pounds. So looking at the sports club as an asset, how do you assess the change in the financial value of Venezia FC in 2024 compared to 2020?
I mean, it's really night and day, right? So when we took over in 2020, the club was on the verge of bankruptcy. And we had no player assets, we had no infrastructure assets, we really had nothing. We've spent a lot of money. So depending on how you look at the business, like if you looked at our financials, you would say it's not a very valuable enterprise because we haven't made money. But the investment was to put the building blocks in place. We're now bringing some new investors into the club. So they're kind of setting the valuation for the club at the moment. And then I think it's really going to be decided in the next 5 years. And all I'm trying to do is set us up so that whether we get promoted or don't get promoted, sure, promotion would help enterprise value, really only if you stay. Does it help enterprise value? If you go up and down, it sort of helps, but not really. But what we're trying to do is when the new stadium comes online, operate the venue so that it becomes a big source of revenue, not just for football matches. Have more shops like the ones we have in Venice, work with the brand ambassador and build a global brand and create an apparel business. Harvest the assets on the first team and in the youth academy when it makes sense, and do it in a consistent way so that it's not volatile results. And then, build a franchise that you think can get promoted to the first division and stay there. we don't have to accomplish all those things to have a huge enterprise value 5 years from now. We just need to accomplish some of them. So what we're trying to do is put a lot of lines in the water, and we don't know if they will all work, but we positioned ourselves where we can try to execute on those things. And now we don't have to spend any more on infrastructure. We don't have to buy a lot of players. We own them. We don't have to build a youth academy. We've built it. And we don't have to build a brand. We've built it. Now we can just try to monetize some of those efforts. And that's our job the next 3 to 5 years. So it's night and day from 2020, but we're far from finished. That's the problem. Like
Great.
it takes a long time to do it right.
Great.
Right.
Yeah. So as last question and to sum up, what specific goals do you have for 2024?
I think the biggest one we hope to do this year is introduce the brand ambassador and start to take the brand to a whole new level. That's number one. Number two, on the sporting side, obviously our aspiration is to get promoted, but we should be understanding that we're only 60% of the way through the season. We've earned the right to be where we are. Our position in the table is deserved by our performance, but now we need to maintain that level of performance. January is always stressful because there's lots of rumors. And what I've said to the players, and I will say it again today, and I'm about to say it to the media, oh, why didn't you buy anybody? Why didn't you buy some players? I'm like, my point is, guys, the guys downstairs in the locker room, I don't need new players. We're not missing anything. We have a really good team, and I want them, they've had success together. I want to give them the chance to finish the job, not change everything around. We don't need to change anything. We're not missing anything. And I know we have a fan in you rooting for us, so I'm sure you're going to be watching.
Yeah, I will. I think it's a perfect summary that nothing's missing there in Venice. So fingers crossed for the promotion and the huge branding success as well. Thank you very much, Duncan.
All right. Thank you, Roger. Have a good rest of the day. Appreciate it. Thank you.